And good afternoon. Welcome to the LPN Weekly, or I guess in this case, it's going to be the LPN Semi-Weekly. We're going to have two this week. Our first one surrounds the hazard mitigation issue that's going on in Livingston Parish at the moment. But first, I'm told I need to identify myself. My name is McHugh David. I am publisher and editor of the Livingston Parish News. You can find me on Twitter at McHugh David 41. I'm on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram. You can also find the news itself on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube. We are pushing our content in all those places. In fact, you can find this podcast on all of those platforms, as well as our website, www.livingstonparishnews.com. It's $5 a month. We promise it's not $5 per article. And in fact, these podcasts are free. Now, if you're having trouble staying logged in, please contact Drew at lpn1898.com, or call our office, 225-665-5176. We are also in print twice a week. On Thursdays, we are magazine style. This Thursday's edition, which is tomorrow, July 4th, happy July 4th, happy Independence Day, we'll be discussing this mitigation issue, and then we have a regular newspaper over the weekend. So let's dive in. Mitigation is an interesting product of the Federal Emergency Management Administration. There's the word, FEMA. It's become sort of a dirty word around here for a lot of different reasons, including their post-flood response. But they're controlling a lot of the business that's being done in the recovery world right now. And this is one of them. It is a program that's offered via grant to allow homeowners to either elevate their home to base flood, or in the parish, since we now have 1 foot freeboard, 1 foot above base flood, or acquisition, which means that they buy your home, or at least the governing municipality through which you participate in the program buys your home, demolishes your home, and it becomes green space. And the only other time that it could be used for any kind of development would take an act of Congress, literally. They would have to pass a law that would remove that land as green space. The question that we get a lot is why? Why is FEMA doing this? What is the purpose? And, the purpose is trying to save them money. Their biggest target is severe repetitive loss properties. Those are properties that are in flood zones A or AE that have flooded multiple times over the years. They get 100% cost share. It's a 100% grant. There is no cost to them. And it makes sense because FEMA is trying to mitigate future disaster costs by going ahead and investing up front. Congressman Garrett Graves, District 6, Republican, has stated on many occasions that the cost of disaster prevention is 6 times cheaper than the cost of disaster recovery. Well, it seems that FEMA is now listening to him. A couple of stats from Livingston Parish after the flood. There have been 7,780 reported claims in 2016, or from damage in 2016. It totaled $710 million. $616 million of those dollars were building claims. $94 million were contents. The high claim came from 70726, which was $693,000. Now imagine that premium. So you sit there and think about this one disaster, right? With $710 million in total claims, 7,700 total insurance claims. The parish itself has 16,416 active flood insurance policies. That does not include Walker. It does not include Denham. That's just the parish. It came from the community rating system, What If, that was presented to the parish council in May. We'll get to that in a minute. Less than half of the people who had policies made an insurance claim. Now, perhaps not as many buildings flooded in the Great Flood of 2016 as some of the initial figures would have suggested. Perhaps some people just didn't want to hit their claim. They just wanted to pay for it and move on. The fact of the matter remains is that FEMA is heavily vulnerable to these disasters. That $710 million could have easily doubled. And do not forget that it also flooded in parts of Livingston Parish in March, and it also flooded in parts of Louisiana in general in March and August. We weren't the only ones to get hit. Those numbers I gave you were Livingston Parish only. It does not include East Baton Rouge. It does not include Ascension. So it could have been a lot worse. It could have been double that if everybody had laid a claim on the National Flood Insurance Program, NFIP, which is, of course, a major central part of the discussion on federal solvency. Right now, the program is not solvent. It hemorrhages money. 2 hurricanes, one in Houston, or really, all of southeastern Texas, and one in Florida came immediately the year after we had our disaster, and is clearly just wiping the program out. They don't have enough money. They've got to find a way. Hence this grant program. They are trying to move these homes. It's not out of the floodplain. That is that they're trying to move them above the floodplain, getting kind of little Jetsons there. So the question that gets brought up after that is, how does it work? Well, the dirty details should be handled by an engineer or contractor, and there are plenty of them that do this work. If you're interested, you can contact Jeanette Clark at the City of Denham Springs. You can contact the Permit Department in Walker, or you can contact Ms. Sarah Allen at the Livingston Office of Homeland Security and Emergency Preparedness. She handles this program at that level. But there are a few major things to know that have been brought to us by Quality Engineering and Surveying out of Port Vincent. They have hosted 3 meetings so far, 1 for Walker, 2 for Denham Springs, that discuss the flood mitigation process and how people can get involved. From the first Denham Springs meeting, which occurred last fall, that'd be fall of 2018, they had about 40 folks show up. About 20 took home packets, 10 applied, and it looks like they're batting 1,000. It looks like 10 people were approved for a value of about $1.4 million. Now, 10 homes, $1.4 million, that's going to save FEMA a lot of money in the long run for you fiscal hawks out there. But here are a couple of interesting pieces of note. Flood insurance must be kept on the home if elevated, although it is suggested that your cost of flood insurance will drop if you elevate your home, which makes sense. You're raising out of the floodplain. The mitigation must be cost effective for FEMA. So that's what we've been talking about, is their solvency. If you are not in a severe repetitive loss area, your cost share goes up. It drops from 100% down to 75%. Now 75% is the lowest that FEMA will pay. You have to pay up to 25%, and that's only if you flooded, and they still may deny you because it's just not cost effective for them to do it for your particular home. That would be acquisition or elevation is mitigation. So remember, it has to be cost effective for FEMA. We've already discussed this piece of the puzzle. It's 100% cost share for those in severe repetitive loss situations. It drops down to 75% as the lowest cost share that FEMA will do, and all of it must be cost beneficial for FEMA. It covers standard grade material, so this is always interesting for folks. What is important about this is if you're elevating a porch or you're building a porch, it's going to be wood. If you want to do brick, concrete, something like that, they will pay for the standard grade materials, so you must pay the difference. So if you want brick, you would work it out with the contractor that's doing your elevation, and you would have to pay that contractor the extra difference between what it would cost to do for a wood porch and what it would cost for a brick porch. That cost is on the homeowner. You may not elevate auxiliary structures or building additions that are not considered contiguous area under roof. Now, that is an interesting real estate term. What contiguous area under roof means is that whatever you added to your home must be heated and cooled. It must have a ceiling. It must have walls. They must be insulated. It must be a true expansion of the home. It cannot be an additional room. And there are a few things that the parish would like you to know beyond those credentials there. even if you cannot afford that anywhere from 5% to 25% cost share as a homeowner, there are pieces of your flood insurance perhaps that would be able to cover it, including ICC, which is called increased cost of compliance. That's up to $30,000, and it may help offset those costs. That was a provision to let folks know that don't let that piece prevent you from applying. Applying does not lock you in. It does not mean that you have to do anything. It just lets you know, perhaps you're qualified. Perhaps you can at least be able to participate in the grant program, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to then go out and hire an engineer and a contractor and all that good, great stuff. So also remember that applying does not necessarily, and even if you are in a severe repetitive loss situation, applying does not necessarily mean that you will be accepted. And these grant programs tend to take months, maybe even up to a year. So it's not immediate. It doesn't immediately turn around and happen. I mentioned some names earlier, and these are important. Okay, Miss Sarah Allen at the Livingston Office of Homeland Security and Emergency Preparedness, 225-686-3987. Denham Springs residents can call the recovery coordinator, Jeanette Clark, at 225-667-8332. Those of you looking for the City of Walker number, please refer to their website. It is you're looking for their permits department. Also, having been mentioned, and what may make people eligible for these grants in the future, it has been suggested, especially in front of the parish council, who has been talking dirt fill and freeboard and all these other floodplain management things, that the flood insurance rate maps, which are called FIRMs, will be updated sometime in the next 18 months, which is going to change the flood zones around here. Livingston Parish is mostly flood zones A and AE. Those folks in X probably won't be in X for much longer. Sorry, folks, we had a camera issue, but we are back. And so we were talking about the numbers in which you could call to apply for these programs. Those are at Denham, Walker, and Livingston. An important piece to note about this mitigation program is that it's through FEMA. The parish received a letter from FEMA on May 23rd that first and foremost suggested that $540 million in NFIP claims had been paid out to Livingston Parish, which was maybe that was true. Maybe the difference between the 540 and the 710 was made up by Walker and Denham Springs city limits. The letter does not affect those residents inside those city limits. What it also said was that the parish was in jeopardy of losing a national flood insurance program coverage. It was also in jeopardy of losing grant funding from FEMA, who controls a lot of the grant funds for hazard mitigation. We're talking about a grant program right now, as well as disaster recovery. So that was not a good letter to receive. So the parish is very much looking to play ball with FEMA, do the things that FEMA is requesting of them, especially to develop a new task force to get back into the community rating system, which is a piece of the NFIP puzzle. What it is participating in activities like education about disasters, education about flood mitigation, passing flood mitigation ordinances like freeboard and dirt fill will allow you to earn points, or allow a community to earn points, which reduces their flood insurance or a flood insurance discount. The parish was a 9. They were removed from the program completely and will have to take steps to get back in, which Mark Harrell and his office is currently going through to improve their disaster recovery instance. And they are roughly $500,000 per year is the cost of having been removed from the system economy-wide, that is Livingston Parish-wide. So that's the increase in the amount of premiums that are being paid into the system. Denham is currently working towards a 7. Walker is at an 8. That offers a 7 would offer a 15% discount. An 8 does offer a 10% discount. The issue between the parish and FEMA is a discrepancy between permits, flood elevation certificates, as well as their handling of the post-flood substantially damaged designation for homes that were over 50% damaged. The parish submitted about 323 inspections. According to FEMA, they should have had about 4,000. So Mark Harrell, Director of Homeland Security and Emergency Preparedness, is trying to find a better way to be able to staff inspection groups and be able to participate or do a better job of inspecting post-disaster issues here in the parish. Again, it was a very expensive disaster. We're still recovering from it. This will be an ongoing thing, this hazard mitigation deal. It is a grant through FEMA that you will apply for either through the parish. If you live inside the city limits of Walker or Denham, you apply through them. If you've applied through either one of them, you may not apply through the parish as well. That will be an automatic disqualification, at least from the parish. If you have any questions, remember the phone numbers that we gave you. Sarah Allen at LOSEP, which is 225-686-3987. That is for folks who live in the parish proper. Recovery Coordinator Jeanette Clark at Denham, 225-667-8332. And Walker residents can check their website. You're looking for the Permit Director's phone number. Thank you for joining us for the LPN Weekly. Again, this will be a semi-weekly. This week we'll be coming at you on Friday with some information about Restore Louisiana and the guidance. We know that a lot of people have expressed confusion to us, as well as just in general, and as well as what your next steps will be as that guidance is approved by Housing and Urban Development, and we can get you folks settled in. Thank you again for joining us, and we will see you next time.